Hi everyone, my name is Martha. I'm a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist, and I'm with my new friend, Rani Dhaschainey. She is the founder and owner of Curve Couch. In the first video, she talked about herself and her work. In the second video, she talked about fat acceptance and fat liberation. In this video, I want to ask about dating. So, Rani, how do you feel as a plus size woman and your experiences with your community, how they navigate dating?
I think as a plus size person, you're always super scared to go into dating because it seems like you're walking into this den where, especially with a lot of us now, we use dating apps, and you're literally walking into this den where men can just like rate you. And with a lot of us, because we feel like we're not enough or we feel like we're less than, it feels like we are sort of putting our worth out there for them to sort of judge and validate us. So it's a very, very scary thing, I feel like, especially when you start in like your early 20s. How I dated in my 20s is actually very different from how I did in my 30s. Um, but I think for a lot of girls, and this has come up because I've spoken to a lot of like my customers, especially, and they've said that men exist in like two spectrums. One end is the men who just feel like you're not good enough, you're not slim enough, you just need to lose weight and then I'll like you. And it's funny because these men actually swipe on you and they talk to you, but then they think that they can go on and say, hey, you're okay, but like, why don't you lose some weight? So they make you feel like you're a project and you need to like do better and you need to improve yourself to then receive their validation and love. And then there's the other extreme who's like, I love you, you're great, I love your body, I love your type. And initially it feels like, oh, he actually really likes me. And then you realize that he is probably fetishizing fat bodies. And you will hear the telltale signs because they'll use words like BBW, they will use words like uh, I like girls with real meat, I don't like girls with bones. And for me, that's really like a red flag. Like the minute you call a girl like all bones and you talk down about a certain group of people, I'm just gonna be like, But when I was younger, obviously, I just thought like, oh, maybe he really likes me. He likes people like me. So like I said, I think that it's quite difficult navigating these two. And I think what would really help is to really understand that our self-worth and our value is really undetermined, and it's not relevant to how much these men approve of us or like us. It's inherent, like our worth is inherent. No matter how we look, no matter what we weigh, we are worthy and we're lovable. And this is not something we hear because growing up I always heard like, if you never lose weight, you're never going to get married. If you never lose weight, you're never going to get a boyfriend. And I had a boyfriend. I was married, Was I happy? No. But then I was all those things, right? So the weight is never the problem. It's really what you feel about yourself.
Yes, when we are told all these messages, it creates a wounding. And from what you say, it's also very similar as a Chinese to be told like, oh, Asian women are this and that. They have the yellow fever, and you are fetishized because you're Asian, and it 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 can feel nice, but then the other person is not really seeing you as an individual. So it can be very frustrating. So how do they continue then to really like find somebody that they can really be compatible with? Um, it can be tiring. So how do you or how do other people that navigate their energies?
Um, I think you always hear things like you're too difficult, you expect too much. But I think knowing what you actually want and knowing what's the kind of person or what's the kind of like energy that you will work best with is very important. And I think it's very difficult to know this like when you're younger because you haven't even figured out yourself. I mean, I'm in my 30s and I'm just trying to figure out myself, right? So I feel like it is going to be really difficult, but um, maybe one thing to do in a relationship, which I probably didn't do in mine, is to constantly ask yourself. I don't think it's wrong, even when you're in a relationship, to ask yourself if you are really content and you're really satisfied. I think a lot of us, when we get into relationships, we get very like comfortable with the fact that we're in a relationship. And for me, let's talk about my experience. I was just like, I mean, I got someone already, like it is going towards the altar. Let me not shake things up, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to be married, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. So for me, it was just like, let's not shake things up. I can just like ignore him. Like those are all the thoughts that came to my mind, So I think constantly asking yourself if you're content, if this is who you want to be with, because we change so much, throughout our lives. And it's okay to feel like, okay, I don't think we're a good match for each other, and have a talk about it and see if you are maybe willing to grow together. And sometimes you are, and sometimes you are not, right? So then take a decision of whether you want this in your life or not. So I think just being really open to these things. And also, I think for me, one thing that has been super liberating is to actually shift my mindset and be like, I would love to have someone in my life, like romantically, but I'm also okay to not have that. To actually finally say that and to feel that is very liberating, because now I'm not just going out there dating with I need to get married, because when you do that, like a lot of the times you're going to miss a lot of red flags, because you just need to tick a box, right? But if you go out there and you're going to say like, I have a lovely life, and someone is going to come in to dramatically improve my life, and only if they dramatically improve my life, and only if I dramatically improve their life, then we'll be together. And if you have these kind of like standards for yourself, I think you will be able to meet a match who's like an energetic match for you.
Yes, when you treat yourselves as valuable, you will also have more, um, they call high value people in your life.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's about being discerning. It's not about being, discriminatory or anything like that. I think we do need to guard our hearts and our energy to meet someone who compliments us and makes us happy.
Yeah.
And like what you say, being desperate just doesn't work well at all. So I like what you said. Really look at what you have and being happy and grateful and saying I have a good life, versus feeling this need to constantly like I'm not enough, I'm not complete, and
Yeah.
that by itself sense of this vibe of desperation. So any dating tips that you have for people out there, plus size or otherwise,
um
especially with the online world?
yeah, I would say try not to talk to people like too long before actually meeting them. I think a lot of us are very scared to meet people because we're like, they're gonna like us or not. But I think about how you're going to feel. Are you going to like them? Because that's the most important thing, right? And I always say this: don't restrict yourself from leaving the date if you're having a bad date. If the person has said something that has offended you, there is no need to suck it up and to wait it out till your meal or your drink is over. You can just say, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable, and leave. I've had a lot of these things. The first time I did it was very scary, but then I think we should understand that we're not going to allow any nonsense to pass through us, because we're worthy of good stuff. So when nonsense comes our way, we're just going to be like, I see you, go away, and just like get up and leave. You can do so much better, and you deserve so much better.
Yes, it's about standing up for yourself and not putting up with nonsense.
Yeah.
Because some a date that is not going well is not going to end in a relationship, and so why continue to put yourself through more misery in the name of being polite or
Yeah.
being afraid of offending someone? They have already offended you,
Yeah.
and it's much easier for both of you to just say, we're not a match, I'm not having a good time, and then just move on. I
Yeah.
think so many people are so afraid of hurting other people, but at what expense? You are important too.
Yeah, and they hurt themselves because they waste all that time on that person when actually they knew from the first date that this was not going to work. Yeah.
Yes. So the telltale signs are there, and as I begin to be older, it's true that the way person does something is the way they do everything. So the telltale signs are there. It's just that we ignore them, or we are doubting ourselves, we're second guessing ourselves, and actually we end up wasting more time. So I so agree with what you have said. So I guess this concludes our third video. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go on to the fourth video. So in the fourth video, we want to talk about some of the myths and misconceptions when it comes to people who are plus size.